I woke up on the cold tile floor of my sister's bathroom, my cheek pressed against the porcelain toilet, and I knew exactly where I was. March 15th, 2019, the day everything started. My hands were shaking as I pushed myself up, but not from the nausea. I'd just lived through the next 6 years of my life in what felt like a single agonizing nightmare. And then I'd open my eyes here, in this moment, with a second chance I didn't deserve but would damn well take. The pregnancy test sat on the counter, two pink lines. I stared at it, my heart hammering, because I knew what came next. In my first life, I'd walked out of this bathroom crying happy tears, rushed downstairs to tell my sister Claire the good news, that the IVF had worked, that I was pregnant with the baby she and her husband Marcus couldn't conceive on their own. Except they weren't my eggs. They were supposed to be an anonymous donor's eggs. That's what I'd been told. That's what I'd believed for years. Right up until my sister's daughter turned 5 and I saw her wearing my childhood necklace, the one I'd lost in a house fire when I was 7, the one that should have been ash in memory, the same necklace my mother had found in the attic 2 weeks before my egg retrieval procedure. That's when the truth had shattered around me. The eggs weren't from a donor. They were mine. My family had drugged me, forged my consent, and harvested my genetic material while I was unconscious, all so my golden child sister could have a baby without the inconvenience of using a stranger's eggs. And when I'd confronted them, when I'd threatened to expose what they'd done, they'd destroyed me. In my first life, I died alone in a psychiatric facility at 32, declared mentally incompetent, my parental rights to Sophia, my daughter, my genetic daughter, permanently severed. My sister had convinced the courts I was delusional, dangerous. My own mother had testified against me, but now I was standing here, 26 years old again, with knowledge burning in my skull like a brand. I picked up the pregnancy test and smiled. This time, I knew the truth from day one. This time, I had documentation, dates, medical records still sitting in databases waiting to be subpoenaed. This time, I wasn't a confused victim trying to make sense of betrayal. This time, I was a weapon. I walked downstairs slowly, the test clutched in my hand. Claire was in the kitchen with Mom, both of them sipping coffee, and they looked up when I entered. Well, Claire's voice was bright, eager. She was 34, beautiful in that polished way that came from money and privilege. Her blonde hair swept into a casual ponytail that probably cost $200 to make look effortless. I'd worshipped her once. My big sister, my role model, the one who could do no wrong. Now I saw her for what she was, a narcissist who'd weaponize anything, including her own sister's body, to get what she wanted. It's positive, I said, and forced my smile to match hers. You're going to be a mom. She shrieked and launched herself at me, wrapping me in a hug that felt like a cage. Oh my God, Mom, did you hear that? My mother's eyes were wet. My baby's having a baby. Claire, this is the best day of my life. Neither of them even looked at me. That was fine. I didn't need their attention yet. I needed their complacency. The first 3 months were the hardest. I had to pretend everything was normal, had to go through all the prenatal appointments and Claire's obsessive monitoring while building my case in secret. In my first life, I'd been naive. I trusted that the clinic had my consent forms, that everything was legitimate. I hadn't known that Dr. Richardson, the fertility specialist my family swore by, was my mother's college roommate, or that she'd falsified medical records before. Now I knew everything. I started with the small things, a new email, his account that Claire and my mother didn't know about. Digital copies of every medical record, every consent form, every communication. I hacked my own patient portal, easy when you remembered the passwords from a life already lived, and downloaded everything. The consent forms were masterpieces of fraud. My signature, perfect, because they'd traced it from my driver's license. The date of the counseling session I'd supposedly attended, a day I'd actually been in Seattle for a work conference with plane tickets and hotel receipts to prove it. They'd been sloppy, arrogant, so sure I'd never question them. I met with a lawyer in a town 40 miles away, paid cash, used a fake name. Just a consultation, I told him. Hypothetically, if someone had their eggs taken without consent, what would that case look like? He'd leaned back in his chair, studying me with sharp eyes. Hypothetically, that's assault. reproductive coercion, fraud. If you could prove it, and that's a big if, you'd be looking at criminal charges against the medical provider and a civil case that could go a dozen different directions, including custody of any resulting children. His eyebrows had risen. That would be complicated. Biologically, if they're your eggs, you're the genetic mother. But if you consented to donate, I didn't. Then yes, you'd have parental rights, but fighting for custody against someone who's been raising the child? That's brutal. Courts favor stability, established relationships. He'd paused. Hypothetically. I'd smiled. What if I could prove they knew I didn't consent? That they conspired to harvest my eggs through fraud and force? Then you'd burn their lives to the ground. Perfect. I played my part beautifully. The devoted younger sister, so thrilled to help Claire achieve her dreams. I went to every ultrasound, let her post photos of my growing belly on social media, always carefully cropped to hide my face, to protect the, surrogate's privacy, she claimed, though we all knew it was so her friends would think she was the pregnant one. Marcus was barely involved. Claire's husband was a cardiothoracic surgeon, too busy saving lives to notice his wife was a monster. In my first life, I thought he was complicit, but now I recognize the signs. He was her victim too, just a different kind. She'd trapped him with pregnancy scares and manipulation long before she'd turned her sights on me. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. At 5 months, Claire threw a baby shower for herself. I wasn't invited to the main party, just the intimate family setup the day before, where I was expected to blow up balloons and arrange gift bags. Mom found me in the kitchen, struggling with a stubborn balloon. "You know how much this means to your sister," she said, not looking at me. She was arranging macarons on a crystal platter, each one probably $8. After everything she's been through. Everything she'd been through. 4 failed IVF rounds with her own eggs, each one a tragedy that had consumed our family's emotional bandwidth for months. Never mind that I'd been struggling through graduate school, working 3 jobs to pay tuition while Claire cried about her barren womb in her 6-bedroom house. I know, Mom. You're doing such a good thing, giving her this gift. She finally looked at me, and her expression was so warm, so proud, that I wanted to scream. You're a wonderful sister. In my first life, those words had sustained me through the pregnancy. I'd clung to them, told myself I was noble and selfless. Now they made me sick. She's lucky to have me, I said, and meant it in a way my mother would never understand. Sophia was born on October 3rd at 3:47 a.m., 7 pounds, 6 ounces with dark hair and my eyes, my grandfather's eyes, heterochromatic, 1 blue and 1 green. I held her for exactly 90 seconds before a nurse took her away and placed her in Claire's arms. My sister looked down at my daughter, our daughter, and cried. She's perfect. Marcus, look at her. She's absolutely perfect. I felt the phantom ache of a grief I'd already lived through, the memory of this moment from my first life when I'd thought I was just emotional, when I hadn't known why holding Sophia felt like losing a piece of my soul. Now I knew. Biology is a relentless thing. Somewhere deep in my cells, my body recognized her, my daughter. Claire never even thanked me. The first 2 years were carefully choreographed torture. I was expected to be Auntie M, the fun babysitter who showed up for free childcare but was sent home before bedtime. I watched Sophia learn to crawl, to walk, to say her first words, Mama, looking at Claire, and I smiled and cooed and took videos like the good little sister I was supposed to be. I also documented everything. Every time Claire got frustrated with Sophia's crying and handed her off to me with a disgusted, God, I need a break. Every time Mom made comments about how Sophia had Emily's nose, isn't that funny? Every time Marcus looked uncomfortable when Claire insisted Sophia was all theirs, genetically ours, the surrogate was just an oven. I recorded conversations on my phone, built a timeline, gathered evidence, and I waited. In my first life, I'd confronted them when Sophia was 5, too late. By then, Claire had established herself as the mother, had years of photos and memories and court-favorable documentation. I'd looked like a delusional woman trying to steal her sister's child. This time would be different. This time, I'd strike while Sophia was still young enough that the courts would prioritize genetic truth over established routine. Before Claire's bond was unbreakable in the eyes of the law. On Sophia's second birthday, I filed the lawsuit. The explosion was spectacular. Claire called me at 11 p.m., her voice shaking with rage. "What the fuck did you must do?" I was in my apartment, a small one-bedroom I'd been saving every penny to upgrade, living like a monk while building my war chest. I'd been expecting this call. "I filed for custody of my daughter," I said calmly. "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" Are you insane? Sophia isn't yours. You were a surrogate." "I was an unwilling egg donor. There's a difference, especially when the consent forms are forged." Silence. Long, damning silence. "M." Her voice changed, became wheedling, the tone she used when she wanted something. "M, sweetie, I don't know what you think happened, but March 8th, 2019. You and Mom brought me to Dr. Richardson's office, told me we were just doing a consultation about your IVF options. You gave me a vitamin smoothie that was actually loaded with sedatives. While I was unconscious, Dr. Richardson performed the egg retrieval. You used my eggs in your IVF cycle and told me I was carrying a donor embryo." Another silence. "You can't prove that." "I have the medical records, the real ones, not the forged consent forms. I have the pharmacy records showing Mom's prescription for Rohypnol filled 2 days before. I have my credit card statement proving I was supposed to be at work that day, but mysteriously called in sick. A call, by the way, that came from Mom's cell phone, which I can prove through phone records. I have text messages between you and Mom discussing the plan. Should I go on?" I heard her breathing, ragged and panicked. "I also have genetic testing," I continued. "Court-admissible DNA results proving Sophia is biologically mine. Not a surrogate, mine." "This is insane. Mom would never— Mom would do anything for you. We both know that." I felt something dark and bitter rise in my throat. I was always the spare parts daughter, wasn't I? The backup plan? You needed a kidney, I'd have been on the operating table before I could say no. "Em, please." She was crying now. "Please don't do this. Sophia is my daughter. I've raised her. I love her. You love the idea of her. You love what she represents. But I've seen you, Claire. I've watched you pawn her off on nannies and babysitters because you can't handle more than an hour of actual parenting. I've seen you get Botox while she was sick with pneumonia because you couldn't reschedule. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? Stealing someone's genetic material. Stealing their child. Stealing 2 years of my daughter's life." My voice was ice now, cold and sharp. "See you in court." I hung up. My phone rang 47 more times that night. Claire, Mom, Marcus, even my father, who I'd barely spoken to in years, who'd checked out of family drama long ago. I ignored them all. My lawyer, a real one this time, a family law shark named Patricia Chen, who'd made her career destroying cases like Claire's, sent me a text at 1 a.m. They lawyered up, got Morrison and Associates. This is going to be fun. I smiled in the darkness of my apartment and finally fell asleep. The preliminary hearings were a bloodbath. Claire's lawyers came out swinging, painting me as an unstable woman suffering from some kind of delusional break, imagining a conspiracy where none existed. They presented the forged consent forms, character witnesses attesting to my erratic behavior, a psychiatrist's evaluation suggesting I had borderline personality disorder with paranoid features. Patricia tore them apart. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence items 23 through 45, phone records, text messages, and email communications between Claire Morrison, Angela Chen, the plaintiff's mother, and Dr. Vivian Richardson, discussing in explicit detail their plan to harvest Ms. Chen's eggs without her knowledge." The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Margaret Kowalski, had looked up sharply. "Explicit detail?" "Yes, Your Honor. including discussions of which sedative to use, how to forge the Salma consent forms, and how to ensure Ms. Chen didn't remember the procedure. Patricia had placed a thick binder on the bench. It's all here. They were idiots enough to put their conspiracy in writing. I watched Claire's face go white. Her lawyer, a silver-haired man named Garrett Morrison, probably costing her $500 an hour, had sputtered. Your Honor, we'd need time to review the authenticity of these alleged— They're authenticated, Patricia said crisply. Chain of custody documented, verified by 2 independent forensic analysts. We also have pharmacy records showing Angela Chen filled a prescription for Rohypnol 3 days before the alleged assault. Alleged? I couldn't help it. The word burst out of me. There's nothing alleged about it. They drugged me and stole my eggs. Judge Kowalski had gavelled me into silence, but her eyes were sharp. Ms. Chen, I understand your frustration, but please allow your attorney to speak. Apologies, Your Honor. I'd sat back, shaking. Patricia had continued, relentless. We also have medical records showing Ms. Emily Chen was in Seattle on the date she supposedly signed consent forms in Portland. We have her employer's records, her hotel receipts, her flight information. She was 400 miles away when she allegedly sat in Dr. Richardson's office and agreed to this procedure. Morrison had tried to rally. Even if, and I'm not conceding anything, but even if there were irregularities in the consent process, Ms. Morrison has been Sophia's mother for 2 years. She's the only mother this child knows. The court must consider the child's best interests. The child's best interests include having a relationship with her biological mother, who was prevented from that relationship through fraud and force, Patricia had snapped. Ms. Morrison has no genetic relationship to Sophia. She's been raising a child that was stolen from my client. That's a gross mischaracterization, is it, pal? Patricia had smiled, cold and sharp. Because we also have evidence that Ms. Morrison has been aware of the genetic truth since before Sophia's birth. We have text messages where she refers to Sophia as having Emily's genetics and discusses how to prevent Ms. Chen from figuring it out. This wasn't a good faith surrogacy gone wrong. This was a premeditated theft of reproductive material and the resulting child. Judge Kowalski had removed her glasses, cleaning them slowly. A bad sign for Claire's side. I'm going to order genetic testing, she'd said finally. Court-supervised, independent laboratory. If Ms. Chen is indeed Sophia's biological mother, we'll proceed to a full custody hearing. In the meantime, she'd paused, looking at me. Ms. Chen, do you have a stable living situation? Yes, Your Honor, I have a 2-bedroom apartment, steady employment as a data analyst, no criminal record, and I've completed a parenting course in preparation for this case. Claire had made a strangled noise. The judge ignored her. I'm ordering supervised visitation. Ms. Chen will have 4 hours per week with Sophia, supervised by a court-appointed monitor, starting this week. Your Honor, Morrison had stood. That's highly irregular. So is drugging someone and harvesting their eggs without consent, counselor. Judge Kowalski's voice could have frozen nitrogen. Motion granted. We'll reconvene in 30 days for the custody hearing after genetic results are processed. I'd walked out of that courtroom trying not to smile. Behind me, I heard Claire sobbing. The first supervised visit was at a neutral location, a family center with bright walls and donated toys, everything carefully designed to be non-threatening. Sophia arrived holding Claire's hand, looking confused and a little scared. She was 2.5 now, starting to form real sentences, to develop a personality beyond baby sounds and giggles. She had my nose, my stubborn chin, my hair, color, though Claire had been curling it into ringlets that must take an hour every morning. Claire knelt down, whispering something to Sophia, then stood and glared at me. The supervisor, a kind-looking woman named Janet, gently suggested Claire wait outside. Mama? Sophia's voice was small. My heart cracked. Your mama is waiting right outside, sweetie. I'm Emily. Your Aunt Em? Recognition flickered. She'd seen me at family events, brief visits where I'd been allowed to admire her from a distance, but never really interact. Aunt Em, she repeated, and some of the fear left her face. We played with blocks. I let her lead, following her instructions to build a castle for Princess. She was bossy, imperious, delighted when I pretended to be the dragon she needed to defeat. She laughed, and the sound was everything. 4 hours passed like 4 minutes. When Claire came back to collect her, Sophia was chattering about the castle, about how Aunt Em is funny, about wanting to come back. Claire's expression was pure poison. The genetic results came back exactly as I knew they would. 99.9% probability that I was Sophia's biological mother. The courthouse the day those results were presented was packed. Somehow the case had leaked, probably Patricia's doing, though she'd never admit it, and the media had latched onto it. "Fertility fraud case rocks Portland," read the headlines. "Woman sues sister for custody after eggs stolen." I became a story. The victim everyone could root for, the wronged woman fighting for her child. Claire became the villain. Her lawyers tried everything. They argued that genetics didn't matter, that Claire was the psychological parent. They brought in experts who testified about attachment theory, about the trauma of removing a child from their primary caregiver. Patricia demolished them. She brought in her own experts who testified about the trauma of being separated from one's biological child. She presented evidence of Claire's subpar parenting, nannies who testified that Claire would go days without spending meaningful time with Sophia, that she was more interested in Instagram photos than actual childcare. She called me to the stand. "Ms. Chen, can you describe the moment you realized Sophia was your biological daughter?" I took a breath, remembering. In my first life, I paused. I couldn't say that. I started to suspect when Sophia was about 3 months old. She had these distinctive heterochromatic eyes, one blue, one green. My grandfather had the same eyes. It's incredibly rare, less than 1% of the population. And I saw how she'd make comments. "Funny how Sophia looks just like you, Em. Good thing she got your nose instead of Marcus's." It felt cruel, but I didn't understand why until later. "When did you know for certain?" "When I found the text messages. I'd borrowed Claire's phone to make a call. Mine was dead, and I saw a thread between her and my mother. They were discussing how to keep me from figuring it out. They talked about the sedation, the forged consent, everything." I looked at the jury. They talked about me like I was a thing, a convenient womb, not a person. How did that make you feel? Betrayed. Violated. I felt tears coming and didn't fight them. These were the people who were supposed to love me, protect me, and they conspired to steal my child. Claire's lawyer on cross-examination tried to make me look vindictive. "Ms. Chen, isn't it true that you've struggled with mental health issues?" I was diagnosed with PTSD and depression after discovering what my family did to me. That's not a mental health issue, that's a normal response to trauma. You've been unemployed for periods? I was in graduate school working toward my master's degree. I graduated summa cum laude. I smiled at him. Unlike your client who dropped out of community college. Objection! Morrison was on his feet. Sustained. But Judge Kowalski was fighting a smile. "Ms. Chen, please just answer the questions asked." "Apologies, Your Honor." Morrison tried again. You've never been a parent. Don't you think removing Sophia from the only mother she's known would be traumatic? I think lying to a child about her origins is traumatic. I think being raised by someone who sees her as a possession rather than a person is traumatic. I leaned forward. I didn't want to take Sophia away from Claire. I wanted us both to be in her life. But your client refused. She said I had no rights, that I was nothing but a womb for hire. She tried to erase me from my own daughter's life. So yes, I'm fighting for custody, because Sophia deserves a parent who will love her unconditionally, not someone who sees her as a prize to be won. The jury had looked at Claire. She'd looked away. Dr. Richardson was arrested on the third day of the trial. I wasn't supposed to know about it. Yet, criminal proceedings were separate from the civil case, but Patricia had sources. She'd leaned over during a recess and whispered, "They got her. Fertility fraud, medical malpractice, conspiracy. She's looking at 20 years. My mother was arrested the next day. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd planned. Claire's defense collapsed. Morrison tried to negotiate a settlement, shared custody, Claire maintaining primary residence, but I refused. No, I told Patricia, all or nothing. I want full custody. The judge might not give you that. Claire's still her legal mother. Then we go to trial. We show the jury every text message, every piece of evidence. We destroy her. Patricia had studied me for a long moment. You're not doing this just for Sophia, are you? No, I admitted. I'm doing this for me too. For what they took from me. For every moment of Sophia's life I missed because of their greed. Good, Patricia had smiled. Righteous anger wins. Cases. Let's bury them. The final day of the trial, Claire took the stand in her own defense. It was a mistake. Morrison tried to rehab her image, asking softball questions about her love for Sophia, her years of struggling with infertility, her dreams of motherhood. I just wanted a baby so badly, Claire said, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to be a mother. Was that so wrong? Then Patricia stood up for cross-examination, and I watched my sister realize she'd walked into a trap. Ms. Morrison, you testified that you just wanted a baby. Is that why you drugged your sister and stole her eggs? I didn't. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Please explain to the jury how forcibly harvesting someone's genetic material against their will is somehow justified by your desire for a child. We didn't force anything. Emily agreed. Emily was unconscious. She was in Seattle. How could she agree to a procedure happening in Portland while she was 400 miles away? Claire's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Ms. Morrison, do you have any genetic relationship to Sophia? I'm her mother. That's not what I asked. Do you have any genetic relationship to the child? Yes or no? No. And yet you told friends, family, and social media that Sophia was yours, that she had your eyes, that she was all yours. Why? Because she is mine. I carried her. No, Emily carried her, but I was there for everything. Claire was spiraling, her carefully constructed image crumbling. I deserve to be a mother. Emily didn't even want kids. The courtroom went silent. I'm sorry, Patricia said, her voice dangerously soft. Are you testifying that your sister didn't want children, and therefore it was acceptable to steal her eggs? That's not... I didn't mean... because we have evidence to the contrary. We have journal entries from Ms. Chen discussing her desire to have children someday. We have conversations with friends about her future family plans. What we don't have is any evidence that she consented to give those plans to you. Claire was crying openly now, her mascara running, all her polish and poise gone. She looked at the jury, desperate. Please, please don't take my baby away. She's all I have. No, Patricia said. She's all Emily has. You have your house, your money, your husband. Emily has a daughter who was stolen from her. The question before this court is simple. Does genetic truth matter? Does consent matter? Or can anyone with enough money and connections simply take what they want? The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the forewoman, a middle-aged black woman with kind eyes, read the verdict. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Emily Chen. We award full legal and physical custody of Sophia Morrison to Ms. Chen with supervised visitation for Claire Morrison pending evaluation. Claire screamed, an actual guttural scream that echoed through the Hatsua courtroom. I sat frozen, unable to process what I'd just heard. I'd won. I'd actually won. The transition wasn't easy. Sophia was confused, frightened, angry. She cried for Claire, for Mama, and I had to hold her while she sobbed and explained in toddler-appropriate terms why everything was changing. Your Mama Claire, she made some grown-up mistakes, I told her one night, rocking her while she cried, and I love you so, so much. I'm going to take care of you now. Want Mama? She wailed. I know, baby, I know. It broke my heart. But I also knew this would pass, that children were resilient, that with time and patience and love, Sophia would adjust. And she did. Slowly, over weeks and months, she started calling me Mommy M. Started running to me when she fell down instead of asking for Claire. Started sleeping through the night in her new bedroom, the one I'd decorated with stars and moons and all her favorite things. Claire's supervised visits were a disaster. She'd cry and beg Sophia to say she wanted to come home, would bring extravagant gifts and make promises she couldn't keep. After 3 months, the court-appointed psychologist recommended reducing her visits to once a month. Ms. Morrison is using the child as an emotional support animal, the report read. She's unable to separate her own needs from the child's well-being. Continued frequent contact is detrimental to Sophia's adjustment. Claire filed appeal after appeal. They all failed. My mother was sentenced to 5 years in prison for conspiracy and fraud. Dr. Richardson got 12 years. Claire wasn't criminally charged. The statute of limitations had passed on some of the offenses, and prosecutors decided the civil case was punishment enough. But she'd lost everything else. Marcus divorced her, sickened by what he'd learned during the trial. Her friends abandoned her. The media labeled her a fertility thief, and she became a cautionary tale about the dark side of baby, fever. Meanwhile, I thrived. I got a promotion at work. Turned out that not being emotionally devastated by family betrayal improved my job performance. I moved to a 3-bedroom house with a yard. I enrolled Sophia in a good preschool where she made friends and learned to paint, and proudly brought home drawings labeled "Me and My Mommy." On Sophia's 4th birthday, we had a party in the backyard. Just friends from school, normal kid stuff. She was laughing, covered in cake frosting, and she looked at me and said, "Best birthday ever, Mommy M." And I realized I'd won more than custody. I'd won my life back. 5 years after the trial, I was at the grocery store with Sophia when I saw Claire. She'd aged badly. The stress and shame had carved lines into her face, stolen the glow she'd always had. She was alone, reaching for cereal on a high shelf, and she looked diminished. She saw me at the same moment I saw her. Our eyes met. Sophia, now 7, didn't recognize her. Why would she? She'd been 2 the last time they'd had contact, and the supervised visits had stopped years ago. "Mommy, can we get the cookies with the chocolate chips?" Sophia asked, tugging my hand. Claire's face crumpled. I should have felt victorious, triumphant. This was the woman who'd stolen from me, who'd drugged and violated me, who'd tried to erase me from my own daughter's life. Instead, I felt nothing, or maybe pity. She'd destroyed herself chasing something that was never meant to be hers. "Sure, sweetheart," I told Sophia. Go grab them." She ran off, and Claire and I stood in awkward silence. "She's beautiful," Claire said finally, her voice hoarse. "Sophia, you're doing a good job." I could have been cruel, could have twisted the knife, but what was the point? "Thank you," I said simply. "Does she," Claire swallowed, "does she ever ask about me?" The honest answer was no. Sophia's memories of Claire had faded, replaced by her real life, her real experiences with me. But I couldn't say that. Even now, I wasn't that heartless. "Sometimes," I lied. "I tell her you made mistakes, but that you cared about her." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I did. I do. I wanted her so badly, and I thought it didn't matter how I got her, as long as I had her." "It mattered," I said quietly. "Consent matters. Truth matters. You couldn't love her right because the foundation was wrong." She nodded, tears spilling over. I know that now." Sophia came running back with the cookies, and I took her hand. "We should go," I said. Emily," Claire's voice stopped me. "I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. For all of it." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a broken woman who'd gambled everything on a lie and lost. "I know," I said, and I walked away. That night, after Sophia was asleep, I sat on her bed and watched her breathe. She was sprawled across the mattress, like a starfish, one arm clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, her dark hair a halo around her face. She had my grandfather's eyes, my nose, my stubborn determination, but She also had her own spirit, her own laugh, her own dreams, her own personality that was wholly, completely hers. I'd spent so much time fighting for her, fighting to be her mother, that I'd almost forgotten the most important part. She wasn't a prize to be won. She was a person. My daughter, yes, but her own person. I love you, I whispered, brushing her hair back. More than you'll ever know. She stirred, mumbling something in her sleep, and settled back into dreams. In my first life, I'd died believing I'd failed her. Believing I was crazy, that I'd imagined the whole conspiracy, that I deserved to be locked away, but I'd been given something impossible, a second chance. And I'd used it to reclaim not just my daughter, but myself. Claire had tried to make me a victim, had tried to reduce me to a womb, a convenient source of genetic material with no rights, no voice, no power. She'd failed. I was Emily Chen. I was Sophia's mother. I was a survivor who'd fought her way through hell and come out the other side carrying everything that mattered. And I'd won. Not just the custody case, though that was part of it. I'd won my autonomy, my truth, my future. I'd won the right to tuck my daughter into bed at night and know that no one could take this from me again. Some people get second chances through luck or grace. I got mine through rebirth and rage. And I'd made damn sure I didn't waste it. Epilogue. 10 years after the trial, I was invited to speak at a medical ethics conference about reproductive rights and consent. The organizers wanted me to share my story to put a human face on fertility fraud. I almost said no, but then I thought about all the women who might be going through what I went through. Women who'd been coerced or drugged or lied to, who had their reproductive choices stolen from them. So I said yes. The auditorium was packed. I stood at the podium looking out at hundreds of faces, doctors, ethicists, lawyers, activists, and took a breath. My name is Emily Chen, I began. And when I was 26 years old, my family drugged me and stole my eggs. I told them everything. The betrayal, the gaslighting, the years of not knowing why I felt so drawn to my sister's child. The moment I discovered the truth and decided to fight. And I told them about the rebirth. Not the literal version. I couldn't explain that I'd actually lived through this twice, that I'd been given a supernatural second chance. Instead, I framed it as a metaphor. I had to die to my old life, I said. Die to the idea that family was sacred, that blood made people trustworthy, that love was unconditional. I had to kill the version of myself that accepted abuse because I was afraid of being alone. And then I had to be reborn as someone stronger. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who would fight for what was stolen from her, no matter the cost. Rebirth isn't easy. It's painful and scary, and there were days I wanted to give up. But on the other side of that pain was freedom. Truth. My daughter. I paused, looking at a woman in the third row who was crying. If you've been violated like I was, if someone has taken your choices, your body, your reproductive future without consent, please know this, it's not your fault. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And you have the right to fight back. Your body is yours. Your eggs, your sperm, your genetic material, it's yours. No one has the right to take that from you, no matter how badly they want a baby, no matter how much they think they deserve it more. Fight, document everything. Find a lawyer who believes you. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're irrational or vindictive for wanting justice. And if you win, when you win, don't apologize for it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of people approached me. Women who'd been pressured into donating eggs to family members, men who'd been tricked into fatherhood, people who'd had their embryos used without permission. I listened to their stories, gave them my lawyer's contact information, hugged them while they cried. And I thought, this is what I was reborn for. Not just to save Sophia, but to be a voice for everyone who's been silenced. Sophia is 17 now. She knows the whole story. I told her when she turned 13 when she was old enough to understand. She'd been quiet for a long time after I finished explaining. Then she'd asked, does she ever want to see me? I don't know, I'd said honestly. She sends a card every birthday. She's never asked for more visitation. Do you think she loved me, really? I'd thought about that carefully. I think she loved the idea of you, the idea of being a mother. But real love means putting someone else's needs first, and she couldn't do that. She wanted you because it made her feel complete, not because she wanted to help you become who you're meant to be. Sophia had nodded slowly. I'm glad you're my mom, she'd said finally. Like my real mom, the one who fought for me. Always, I'd promised. Now she's applying to colleges, thinking about studying law or medicine, or maybe both. She's brilliant and fierce and kind, and she doesn't let anyone push her around. She's everything I hoped she'd be. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder about the other timeline. The one where I didn't get a second chance, where I died in that facility, where Sophia grew up thinking Claire was her mother, and I was just the crazy aunt who'd tried to kidnap her. I wonder what kind of person she would have become in that world. But then I look at the daughter I have, confident, loved, aware of her worth, and I know I made the right choices, every single one of them. Last week, I got a letter from Claire. She's living in Arizona now, working as a receptionist, attending therapy twice a week. The letter was short, written on lined paper in shaky handwriting. Dear Emily, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been in therapy for 8 years now, and my therapist says that making amends is part of my healing, even if you never forgive me. What I did to you was unforgivable. I stole your body, your choice, your daughter. I told myself I deserved to be a mother, that my pain justified any action. I was wrong. I've thought a lot about why I did it. I think I was so obsessed with the idea of biological motherhood that I stopped seeing you as a person. You were just a means to an end, a way to get what I wanted. That's the thing about obsession. It makes you cruel. It makes you capable of things you'd never imagine. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to see Sophia. I know I lost that right. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I took from you. I hope Sophia is happy. I hope she's everything you wanted her to be. I'm sorry, Claire. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a box with all the other documentation from the case, the evidence, the court records, the articles. Someday, when Sophia has children of her own, maybe I'll show her. Maybe she'll want to understand the full scope of what happened. Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll want to leave it buried, to focus on the future instead of the past. Either way, I'll respect her choice. Because that's what real love is, giving someone the power to make their own decisions, even when you disagree, even when it hurts. I'm 42 now, Sophia is 17, Claire is 50, my mother is out of prison, and Dr. Richardson died in jail last year. The story has a neat ending for the media. Villain punished, victim vindicated, child thriving. But real life isn't that simple. I still have nightmares sometimes. Still wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I'm back in that psychiatric facility, convinced this life is the dream and that one was real. Sophia still has abandonment issues, still gets anxious when I travel for work. Claire is still broken. My mother sent me a letter when she got out of prison. I burned it without reading it. But we survive. We heal. We move forward. And every morning when Sophia comes down for breakfast, tall and beautiful and so much herself, I remember why I fought. Not for revenge, though that was part of it. Not for justice, though that mattered too. I fought because she was mine. Because they tried to erase me and I refused to be erased. Because sometimes, when the world tries to make you disappear, the only option is to burn so bright they can't look away. I was reborn in fire and rage, and I emerged holding everything that mattered. My daughter, my truth, my life. They made me give her my donor eggs. After Rebirth, I sued for custody and won, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, Cam, no, you're absolutely right. I'm not normally a hoodie gal. But yeah, you know what? It's the first day of it being slightly colder, by which I mean it's, like fucking in the 60s. And I felt like being cozy. I feel like being cozalicious. Definition. Make them girls wear hoodies. Stole it from a mom of 3 from the Midwest. Yep. No regrets. No regrets. Don't go changing to try and please me. You've never let me down before. I made it through the wilderness. Somehow I made it through. Didn't know how lost I was until I found you. Yeah, I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. When a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get feelings. Bah, 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 bah. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Ha 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 ha. Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Ha, ha, ha. Staying alive, staying alive. Who, 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 who? Who let the dogs out? Who, 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 who let the dogs out? Who? Wait, so get up and dance to the music. Dum, 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 dum. Dance to the music. Somebody needs to dance to the music. Right? Are we getting it so far? Oh, God. Real. Break it down, green girl. All we need is a bottle. Wait, for people who want, all we need is a what? Only need a beat? Yeah. Did you take a breath during that whole thing? Xanthioke point redeem. That's just, you talk Shrek and you've got me. This made me so happy. You're so welcome. Yeah, I was not joking when I said that my sister and I were so obsessed. And thank you, Owl, for the respectful agua. Any chance that ADHD runs in your family also? What? Why would you ask that? That's crazy. Can't imagine why. Unluck. Night-night, Wheel. Have a good one. Sleep well. Thelonious, my man. Just came back to me. Is ADHD hereditary? Surfing is Google right now. All funniest people have something slightly wrong with them. Affectionate.